Hello indie game fans, while the huge release of the week has to be Resident Evil 8, new indie games are of interest as well, with a number of bigger games previously mentioned, but as always, we do have some hidden gems in the mix for this edition of Indie Gaming this week. Let's begin with the re-release of Nongunz, now dubbed as the Doppelganger edition, where the previous publisher of this title did screw over the developers, causing them to pull the title and relaunch this week. Very interestingly, this is a roguelike platformer but does have idle game mechanics, so it's one of the more unique entries in terms of pure game design. Doesn't hurt that it has slick animated cutscenes and some great pixel art, so if you have not got this, do pick this up. I do love a good shoot 'em up, and a title of interest in the space is Flowing Light, an arcade shooter, but interestingly, has a puzzle element which makes it quite the curiosity. Rather than fast-paced action and all bullets all the time, this instead has a more deliberate pace while still retaining those bullet hell elements, making it another title of interest. A space-themed entry of interest this week is Astrobase Command, one which describes itself as an Iron Man sci-fi base builder, which of course is code for survival base builder, where every decision matters and if your colony is destroyed, you do have to start all over again. The modular base building system looks interesting. We are able to build in 3 dimensions, and with a variety of different alien races that you can customize, there should be plenty of variety. On top of the core base building elements, you do have to send your crew out on expeditions, where they will make decisions based on their personalities and cannot be directly controlled, which should lead to some interesting procedurally generated scenarios, which makes the overall package one for base builder fans. If you watched my 50k subscriber special, you will know that I'm a fan of old school RTS titles like Age of Empires, where StarCraft is of course in the mix as well, which made 5 Nations get my attention. This is a decidedly old school inspired RTS title that really does kind of look like StarCraft 1, only with the exception that it is all in space, and where there are 5 races instead of 3. Still, I do see the Terran, Zerg and Protoss equivalent in the trailer, so if you're like me who grew up with strategy games in the 90s, this is one of interest. Speaking of titles that are heavily inspired by something, let's face it, Pink Chips is basically Splatoon. But since that's a Nintendo exclusive and we don't have something on PC in that space, good on the developer for doing something like this. Rather than a third-person shooter with a behind-the-back camera, this instead uses the top-down action-adventure style view, which is an interesting alternative. It supports up to 8 players, so 4v4 on the maps, and based on my knowledge, it's not easy for developers to code multiplayer like this. It does have its share of cosmetic customization so that you can show off to your friends, which does feed into the business model in that this is a free-to-play title, but with a yet unannounced in-app purchase structure, so hopefully the monetization is not too exploitative. No bigger titles of interest, so we'll kick smaller games off with 2D Baseball Duel, a 1v1 sports title about America's favourite pastime, pitting pitcher and batter in 1v1 action. If there's one thing that flight sims provide, is that feeling of freedom and exploration as you soar across an endless landscape, and while we do have our fair share of planes and birds, Aviano uses hang gliders instead, looking to be quite the pleasant and freeing experience. Japanese developer AXE Create and publisher Chemical have been pumping out classically designed JRPGs which tend to be mobile first, which then get PC and console versions later, where Chroma Quaternion is exactly that, having some sweet pixel art, an adorable Pomeranian as a party member, and is set in a world where the 4 kingdoms are coloured by the 4 seasons and has been fairly well received and is for fans of the genre. If you enjoyed Cook Serve Delicious, you might want to take a look at King of Cooking this week, coming to us from a Korean developer and looks really cute. Liberation Mutagenix is essentially Lemmings, so if you grew up with that, you know what to expect. Marble rolling sports videos really took off during the onset of the pandemic last year, and if you enjoyed those, the physics sim Marble World will allow you to do the same. I remember covering Save Me Mr. Tako back in 2018, being a pixel art platformer that is very retro, where the definitive edition releases this week, rebalancing the game, adding new difficulty modes, a hidden system, quality of life improvements and additional content, so it's the best time to pick it up. Siphonophore got my attention since it's self-described as a Lovecraftian dream psycho adventure where you battle your way across a star cluster, having to defend a pan-dimensional monster that bonded to you, all with some slick visuals and good action. I love the pixel art style of this developer, so of course Super Fowlst 2 gets a spot, but the design of the main chicken character is simply adorable. If you're old like me and love Flash games, then the Bart Bonte collection will be of interest, recompiling and remastering 28 Flash games into one package with classics like Sugar Sugar and the Factory Balls series that will give you that nostalgia kick. I quite enjoyed the city building title The Colonists back in 2018, being a very well put together entry where you use robots to colonize new planets, which gets console versions this week.
You want it in? You're in. Welcome to Farios, pal, where dreams come true while the rest of the world is fast asleep. One little tip, don't be a loser. At Farios, we turn chaos into gold, political loss into financial gain. No point being here unless you're willing to go all in, so forget everything you care about, okay? You chew gum? Gary, get us some gum!
It's a pretty strange coincidence where we get two stock market titles this week, the first being The Invisible Hand, named after Adam Smith's famous concept on how market forces should automatically adjust themselves, having you play as a stock trader and having to amass as much profit as possible. There are some questionable things that you can do like insider trading or manipulating the market, of which I'm sure happens in real life, so to take a peek behind the curtain, this is one to get.
Pay no mind to any rumors of investigation. The cops are all part of the game at this point. There's no law against making money illegally, pal. That's what lawyers are for. You don't have one? Gary, get in here! At the end of the day, we all know what truly matters. Profit! Wealth is power. It's life on the wire. It's rolled up sleeves. It's abusively yelling at your coworkers, unprovoked. You think you got what it takes? We'll see on Monday.
Finally, the aptly named The Stonks Market is another similar title but within a visual novel framework, and given all the recent hype from GameStop and Dogecoin, this looks like a title poking fun at it. Let's kick off the top 5 with Perpetua, a painstakingly, literally handcrafted point-and-click adventure game that uses papercraft made by hand, looking classic in design and gets a spot for how much work it must have been. One of the slickest titles on Apple Arcade comes to PC and modern consoles this week, where Skate City appears to be a side-scrolling entry akin to Ollie Ollie, but with the cool vibes and slick visuals, this is a no-brainer.
is rife with danger. Our kind, the Kun Anan, have fallen into decline. Now is the age of the Elder Gods. They oppress us and rob the land of its most sacred treasures. The ancestors have chosen you to defend us.
One of the most impressive titles of the week is Almighty Kill Your Gods, a third-person action game where you battle giant bosses, rip them limb from limb, and to use these to rebuild your home. It's rather macabre, but does have that Monster Hunter or Dauntless vibe, so if you're into those games, this is one to keep an eye on. Impressively, at least based on their website, this developer has only 6 members full-time on staff, but of course do use contractors as well, but it does seem impressive and is one to check out.
Provide for our kind. Alpha, you must restore us to our former glory. You must become Almighty!
Just covered Distant Kingdoms in my video on the best upcoming games of May, and it's a fantasy city builder that looks wonderful. On top of the regular city building elements, there are fantasy races like dwarves, elves and orcs, an adventuring component where you send parties out into the unknown wilds, some combat elements and even a larger meta kingdom layer, and as one of you pointed out in the comments, is perhaps inspired by the Majesty games but for a new era.
Ready?
Pretty hyped for a patch quest myself, so of course it gets top billing, where this action roguelite with monster taming and Metroidvania elements blends together all of my favourite things. You're exploring Patch Lentis, once home to an ancient civilization but now fully reclaimed by nature. We're trying to uncover the mystery as to why the civilization declined. As part of the Explorers Guild, lasso and tame the various creatures and to use them as your mount, using their powers in order to help you progress, but if you do fail, the guild does have your back and will allow you to get incrementally stronger from run to run. There's a whole bunch of collection and cataloguing to be done, monsters that you can tame to the extent of being your pets, and even the utilization of monster abilities to access new areas. Love the art style as well, and it really does check all of my boxes, taking the #1 spot. To see more of the big picture, check out these awesome videos, and I will see you after the jump.